it's Lisa. I'm here today with a very summary page all about eating ice cream. And I want to use a stamp set that was part of the things that I picked out for the summer that I have not used very much. I'm not sure I've really, other than some of the word stamps, used this at all. This was a stamp set I won as blog candy. It is Stamping Up set, and I was so delighted to get it because it was one I considered purchasing once and I never had. We've got enjoy, and we have some words here, the little things and every moment, and then we have some other stamps. And what I liked about this was this kind of reminds me of the top of the ice cream, the actual ice cream in the ice cream cone. So I think we're going to use that, and then maybe I sneak in a little bit of journaling, if nothing else, the place and the date on this stamp. And I got to thinking that this kind of looked like a scallop, so I have this larger scallop punch from Stamping Up, and I think these are a match. I'm going to test that out here in a little bit. So here's our sketch. I'd like to put some designer paper, some of my 6x6 pads to work down here on the bottom. We're going to make our ice cream cone. I'll show you how to do that. And then I was planning to do some misting behind the photo, and that's what I was drawing here. But I got to thinking that's also in my box of stuff I wanted to use is some enamel dots. I've collected a fair amount of these, and I just don't use them that much. So we may do a little misting, but I may add a few enamel dots as well for this page. They're kind of fun, and I think they kind of give that candy look, and it sort of goes with this whole sweets theme. So the next thing we need to do is pick out paper. And I didn't pick out a specific 6x6 pad. I just went and pulled a bunch of different older pads that I have, and I thought I'd go through and see what kind of grabbed me in terms of color, because the photo, everybody's wearing neutrals, and so I don't really have a particular color to stand out here. So I thought, you know, we can do all kinds of things with this one. So I'm just going to flip through a few of these quickly and pull out a few papers. Let's see how many I need. I need 7, say 8 different papers at the most, because I could repeat some for this design. I keep all of my 6x6 pads in page protectors, the 8.5 by 11 page protectors, and then I can keep all the little scraps in there. Just going through and picking some very colorful things. Some of these packs didn't have anything that really appealed to me. Some of them had a little more muted colors. And here's one I was kind of looking for, and I think I got this at the same time I got that stamp set, actually. And it's a girl pad of colors, but it's got some really bright, fun things that I think go with the ice cream theme. And I've got a lot of pinks and yellows. I really want to add some other color in there too, so I'm going to add some aqua green to this. I could have maybe thrown in a little orange. Now, I should have known when I counted up the number of papers that I would go over the 8, because it's hard to narrow down the papers, but we'll get to that narrowing down process in a little while. I've got some crepe paper here. Got a pretty green one there that I liked. I also pulled out a couple of wood grains. And this is Pebbles. Found some blue-green in this one. And the Pier. And there is some ice cream paper. It has ice cream, like the creamsicles and that kind of stuff on it, instead of ice cream cones, but still it's going to work. So I'm just narrowing down where I have duplicates, some of the yellow prints. I don't need 2 of those. I still have more than enough papers, but we'll get those narrowed down completely. I'm measuring. I'm going to need to cut them at, they're measured on the sketch at 1 1/8, so I'm going to be cutting 2 1/4 inch squares. I'm also going to be doing some misting here with some Mr. Huey, I believe that's lemonade mist. I'm going to add a little bit of that to the background. I'm going to do a few drops as well. Now this one with the ice creams on there, I don't want to cut it just as a square. I want to cut kind of turn this on this diamond shape that it's going to be actually on the paper. And trace one of them so that they won't be lying on their side, because if I just cut it out as a square, they'd be turned. I didn't have a pencil, so I used I don't know where all my pencils went, so I just used a pen and made sure I trimmed off all of the edges there. Decided to use most of the patterns for that first row and then slip the B-side prints in the bottom. And I didn't end up using the wood grains. Now for the ice cream cone, we're going to go to our stamp set. There's a stamp there that I think will make a really good bit of ice cream. We're going to use Regal Rose ink to stamp that with. And my scallop punch, it does match up. It takes me a little bit of time to get it lined up just perfectly. That's nice. That's another stamp that I have that goes with this punch. And it's going to need a little something to make it stand out on that white background. So we'll put some ink on that in a few moments. But what I'm doing now is I'm taking a piece of craft cardstock and I'm doing 1/2-inch score lines. I have it placed diagonally on my Martha Stewart scoreboard. So one corner is at 2.5 inches on one side and the other corner is at 2.5 inches coming down. So it's a 45-degree angle. And I just flipped it over, did the same thing, and put score lines in that way as well, every 1/2 inch. And that will give us that look of a waffle cone. So I'm just going to do some folding here so they really stand up good. You could add ink to the edges to make them stand out even more. Now, of course, if you had an embossing folder that had that kind of pattern, you could do it that way too. But I don't have an embossing machine, so I just had to do that manually. And then we're going to do a little trimming out here to get our cone shape. It's a little bit big. I'll have to trim it down just a little bit more. And then it finally dawned on me that the ice cream actually needs to go in the cone. So that's going to lay on top of that after we get some of this rose-colored ink around the edges. That makes a lot of difference since it's laying on that white background paper. And I thought about putting enamel dots around there, but I realized that what would look really cute are stickles for sprinkles on the ice cream. I'm going to use this for some journaling, or at least information about the date and place where this took place. Doesn't really need a lot of journaling. It's kind of self-explanatory that we're enjoying some ice cream. So I had a couple of different stickles. And the idea here was I was doing this late in the evening that I would put these on and set this aside so they could dry. I am so bad when I put stickles on to mess with it and mess up the stickles. And of course I did that. I put it aside, let it dry, and then before I left the work table I still was messing with it and kind of messed one of them up. But anyway, it looks really cute, and we'll come back to it in a little while. Adding a little bit of pink around the edges of some of those to make those stand out as well. And I'm using my grid mat and starting in the center and working out on these squares because this 2 1/4 inch size is not a perfect size for going across, but it's close, and it's the easiest thing I could figure to measure, and a little bit hangs off the edge, but that's okay. I'm going to glue all these on, and then I will just take it to the paper trimmer and I use some scissors too to help me trim these down, and then I'll just get rid of all of that extra, and it'll be really neat on the edges. Now I'm doing a little bit more stamping. This was a little bit more of a challenge. I wanted to use one of the other flowers from the stamp set, and I stamped some of these. I cut them out. I did finally become reasonably happy with one, but it wasn't my favorite thing because I don't have a punch that matches this. I don't know if there is a punch that goes with this flower, but I don't have it, if there is. And I'm also going to use one of the center designs, and I tried both white paper and some of the printed designer papers, the B-sides. But we'll see what to do with this in a little while to make it look a little better on our page. So it's not that great looking now, but we can improve it. Now in the meantime, I've got to glue my print down, and I've cut some of this out because I kept getting my head in the way. I couldn't see it really good and line it up good unless I had my head in the way there. So I first put it a little too low on the page, and I'm just moving it up. Alright, and it's kind of figuring out the placement of everything, and so I can stamp the word enjoy on the back. Now I probably should have done this before I glued everything down because this is a little bit risky. At this point I have a lot of stuff on this page and I've got to get the word enjoy on there correctly. So I'm using the Stamp-A-Majig. I stamped it with some of turquoise ink, Bermuda Bay ink, because I'm going to be actually stamping this with black archival ink, and I didn't want to use that on my Stamp-A-Majig sheet because then it would be permanent. So I'm just using the Stamp-A-Majig to help me line that up, and I'll do this again in just a moment with the smaller words, and it comes out so pretty. I chose archival ink because it just stamps really great. Now we're going to do the same thing with the small words. I'm just stamping them with an ink that I can easily wipe off. I put the clear mat in the corner of the Stamp-A-Majig and stamp my image there, and then I will have that to use to line up on the page. So I place the clear where I want it, put the T-square back on the corner of it, and then that T-square is in place for putting the stamped image down. And I did that for each of the small words, the little things, and every moment. So it makes a really cute title. Now I didn't use the Stamp-A-Majig to do the little flower in the middle of enjoy. You'll see what happens. I just eyeballed it and it got it off center. So we're going to fix that. We're going to turn that little flower, we're going to give it a stem and a center, and it looks real cute off center, just like it was planned to be that way. Alright, and what I had to do for that yellow flower was it needed something more, so I did that same design that I did with the ice cream cone in yellow and gave it a background, and that really helped it a whole lot. And the very center I'm going to use pop dots because it'll give it a little more dimension, and it also gives me something to use my stick pens with. Stick pens were another thing that I had in my stash of summer stuff that I wanted to use, so I'm going to throw a couple of stick pens up there in the top of this. Those grow really well through foam adhesive. And I felt like the black title and all the black in the photo needed a little bit more balance, so I'm using some black and white trim. This is also from Stampin' Up! Around the bottom. So I'm using quite a few older products here, but in still a very fun layout. And we'll tie a bow around that trim on the bottom, and that will wrap up our page. And I put under my bows some glue dots just to make sure they stay in place. And we'll pull the sketch here in a moment and then look at some close-ups for the page. So here's our sketch. You can see our 2 1/4 inch squares with some misting in the background, the cute little ice cream cone that we made with the scalloped punched top for the ice cream, and our other design. Let me show you some close-ups. We've got our misting. I decided not to use the enamel dots because I felt like I had enough stuff on the page and they had the stickles and all. Thank you so much for watching. You can find the sketch over on my blog, and I hope you'll check out some of my other videos while you're here on my channel.